morning. I'm Leslie Winnick, co-founder of CapitalW, and this is Take5. Good morning, Stacey.
Good morning.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to be sitting with you face to face.
Right?
We've had several conversations online.
Yes.
And it's even better to feel your energy and be sitting beside you.
I was thinking the same thing.
Wonderful. Well, we're sitting here in, get this background, beautiful Palos Verdes, California, for the CMBA Western Secondary. First and foremost, thank you, California MBA, for hosting us and for all the work that you do to put on such an important industry gathering. And again, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You dragged me out of my home office to be in this beauty with a lovely breeze. Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. You can drag me anytime.
Okay, wonderful. It's the start of many conversations by the sea.
Yes.
We're here for a Take5 CapitalW series with industry experts to ask 5 same questions, questions which each person brings their unique spin. And then we end it with 5 quick personality questions to get to learn a little bit more about you as, you know, really what makes you tick and who you are as a personality.
Awesome.
And why don't you give the folks at home just a quick little snippet about your current role at National MI and your background today before we jump into the questions.
Okay, perfect. Well, I've been with National MI since December of 2020. So I jumped during the pandemic, took a chance on something completely different from what I had done in the past, but still supporting an industry that I've grown to love over the years. And I lead a team of ladies that do a couple of different things. So my official title is Manager of Client Digital Experience. But what that means is I have a team that branches off in 2 verticals. One is around training. So we host National MI University. Some of the folks in the audience may have seen our webcasts or our webinars. And we also do sales outreach. So we support our sales team with key accounts, with helping to get their arms around more people.
And I mean, that's the perfect, if we said nothing else, it's a perfect segue for why CapitalW wanted to speak with you, because our mantra is educate, elevate, and empower. You just said educate and elevate right there in your opener. Being with you is already empowering. I know that. So we're going to have a lot to discuss about around your education and elevating and making people feel good about who they are and what they can bring to the marketplace. All right. So let's jump in. You said this is, you took a chance during the pandemic, but you have a really unique and wonderful background and storyline. I will say to everyone at home, in our very first conversation, you told me about getting your PhD, your doctorate during the pandemic, and your thesis was about the lack of female representation in the C-suite in the banking industry.
Yes.
And I just went, ding, 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 ding. We have to get Dr. Stacey for a Take5. So that's just your recent educational background. But why don't you give us a little bit of a timeline, a walkthrough of where you've been in your career and where you are today. Okay.
Well, clearly all the white hair I've earned. I've been around for a minute. I started in the financial services industry as a whole in 1989. I worked for a credit card company. I worked in some B-paper lending, cradle to grave mortgages, underwriting the whole kit and caboodle. Then I went into the banking industry and I worked in banking for a good segment of my career. And I worked in a couple of different roles there, change management, retail banking, mortgage as well. And then I went into training. And I worked for a small training company in the mortgage industry, and now I'm with National MI. And it's a bit of a culmination of all of those things that I've done in the past. I'm a huge believer. When somebody says, I fell into this industry, I think, no. Let's back up. Tell me your story, because every step is what led you to where you are today. And it's all, you are where you're supposed to be in this moment. And I truly believe that's why I'm at National MI doing what I'm doing today.
I could not agree more. I very much hold the building block mentality. It's kind of, for people who went to college, for example, a metaphor would be like, you get to school and they say, here's an entire curriculum, pick your course load. And then you start picking these classes that interest you or want to study, and suddenly you've pulled a thread, right? You've got a storyline of all this education you pulled in. And when I'm talking to young graduates, I'm like, it's just like how you created your curriculum, your course load in college, your career. Find an anchor point, and you're going to start creating these building blocks that deliver a career.
Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty remarkable that way.
Yeah. And that pulling of those classes and that weaving is, I think that's why so many people end up changing majors, because they find that they have an affinity or a real passion for something that was different from where they started. And I think in this industry, there's opportunity for you to do that too. You can do something for a while and then start to develop a passion for something else in the industry and take a step. Take a chance.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what we want to do these Take 5s, to show people that you don't have to be one thing in mortgage, and you can certainly get into capital markets if that hasn't been your path to date and it interests you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit about your responsibilities in your current role, digital and training, but there's so much that you're doing that's unique, how you get the word out and how you're taking this platform and messaging and your university, for example. Could you give us a little bit of a background about that as well?
Yeah. So in National MI University, we do webinars every month. Interestingly, we have 4 E's: educate, energize, engage, and elevate. So what a match. So that's our whole goal. We bring in industry experts and they present on topics that matter in the industry today. We want to stay really relevant. And there's so much that changes about our industry. So many of the topics that we have presenters do come from the audience, from the ask of the audience. So we're trying to stay in tune that way. In addition, I do some things within National MI. So I chair our DEI committee, which we call Embrace. We want for everybody to feel that they belong at National MI. And so our goal is to bring education about different aspects of different people, but we broaden that education term to everything. We've had folks come in who are helping us with mental health awareness, and we did chair yoga, for example. We have someone who's coming in September to talk about suicide prevention. So there's just a lot that we do there. And then I also host the California MBA's DEI podcast, which is a huge privilege and honor. I get to talk with some of the most amazing people in our industry and learn how their journeys have gotten them to this pivotal point where they are today and what it is they're doing to influence change in our industry and our country.
Amazing. Well, first, thank you for doing all that, because it's clearly making a difference out in the world. Who are some of your recent guests? Like
the podcast guests?
Yeah, podcast guests.
So Ty Christensen, we did an interview recently. Kevin Perrano did an interview recently, and both just have such an amazing personal story that drove them to fulfill the passions that they're fulfilling today. It's just, they're incredible. I know that CapitalW is going to be a guest coming up very soon, so I'm excited to get your panel on there and learn more.
A little
promo. We're going to put that out there. Shameless plug.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be really interesting for our audience to learn more about what CapitalW Collective is doing, why you started in the first place, but clearly where your goals are and what your dreams are for helping women in the industry.
Thank you about that. So, we talk about our industry. You already said that things are changing quickly. As an industry veteran, not necessarily a national MI employee, but just as an industry veteran, from where you sit right now in your seat, what do you think are some of the most pressing issues in the industry right now, and how do those issues affect mortgage capital markets?
Yeah, so for me, what I've learned in my career is that the mortgage industry is like this beautiful woven cloth, and every piece, every thread that comes into that cloth impacts the whole design, impacts the structure and the sanctity of that cloth. So there's so many issues right now that really can be standalone issues when you talk about them, but the impact of each one of those issues on the industry as a whole truly has an impact on capital markets. You think about the challenges around endgame, the challenges around low inventory, the challenges around other aspects of our industry, rates, all of that. If these things are managed singularly rather than looking at it collaboratively as a collective, it really can impact what's happening in capital markets. I mean, why would we need capital markets if there's no activity happening in mortgage? So
please don't say that. Please, we need capital markets.
It's not going to get, I don't believe it's going to get to that extreme. But I can say, having lived through, I worked for a large national organization during 2008. So 2008, 2010, that nightmare of a time. This is a completely different and unique. And I do believe we learned lessons during that period of time, which is why
there are boundaries.
Absolutely.
That are around now. We have some boundaries.
Yes. And I think as a whole, a lot of what we've had to do is in our industry is gain back the trust of the American people. And I think when you look at how our industry operates today versus back then, that trust should really be solidified. But the issues that we face today are unique. And the interesting piece to me is always, I think with everything, are the folks that are making the decisions really in tune with what's happening in the industry and the people that are involved and the overall effect, the long-term effects. So I think there's a lot that we all have to do to come together and make that change happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's why a conference like this is so important.
Exactly.
When you can meet with people who are in different parts of the industry and start talking about a cohesive plan to solve something. I mean, you're in insurance. Who would have thought 20 years ago that the climate would be so relevant to your business day to day?
Absolutely.
Right? So that's a wholly different issue that would need some collaboration to kind of solve for that. Yeah. So basically, there are a whole lot of issues. Not one stands out.
Not one.
But we've got to have a cohesive plan for all of them. You can't just solve it in isolation.
Right. Yeah, you cannot.
Yeah. All right. So a little segue now. We talked a little bit earlier about younger people or people who say, I just fell into the industry, right? If you were talking to someone today, doesn't matter their age, right? And they were interested in mortgage capital markets, what advice would you give them at the start of their journey in mortgage capital markets? What would it take for them to find fulfillment, fuel their passion and have them deliver excellent work?
I think the first thing that you have to do, no matter what you're about to step forward into, is know why you're taking that step forward. If you know the why behind what it is that you're attempting to do or you're stepping into, it fuels the passion that you have for it. And in those days where things might be a little tough or a little more challenging, you can center yourself back around, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm interested. So if that why really is a fulfilling why, that's the first thing you have to do. But I think you really have to challenge yourself to take a risk and be okay with the fact that you might fall down. You just get back up and you start right back over. You learn the lessons and you keep on moving, but you really lean into incredible partners like MCT and like you with CapitalW for women who are looking to move into that part of our industry. There's so much opportunity that you have to really believe and take some faith to take that step.
Yeah, skin knees heal.
Skin knees are okay.
They heal. Yeah. Okay, so personal question then. What's your why? What's Dr. Stacey's why for what you're doing right now?
My why is always centered around helping others to find their superpowers. All of us, I think, have a superhero inside of us. We just may not recognize it. And when you can help someone figure out what it is that makes them such a significant part of the world as a whole, and then certainly their world in the microcosm, then you are helping ignite a fire in them that's going to make sure that they achieve their highest goals. So for me, the best day is when I've been coaching or working with someone, whether it's a short time or a long time, and they're right at the edge of the seat, and I'm right at the edge of my seat. I know they're about to get it, and when that moment happens, that's the most fulfilling piece for me, is to be able to help people get to that point, find the superpower, and take off.
Wow. So what happens if they're not grabbing their, cape and bullet bracelets right away? Like, how do you keep them engaged on this journey to find that power if they're doubting that it actually exists? Like, what do you do to pull that out of someone?
You ask a lot of questions and you listen, because sometimes it's not necessarily what someone says, but maybe what they don't say. Sometimes it's the reaction to the question that you ask. Like, you can read it on their face or feel it in their body language that you've just hit on something that's really getting to the core and helping them get to the core of what their fear of what's holding them back. That's how you help them. That's really how you support them.
Amen. I mean, honestly, listening, asking open, non-judgmental questions.
Yeah.
Those are two keys of leading, period. Managing, leading, and being a good person, right? It's a conversation, it's communication. I couldn't agree more. And, at Capital W, one of our values is harnessing the intellect and acumen of our membership, but also honing EQ skills.
Yes.
Right? And you can be the smartest person in the room, but if you can't read the room, you're not finding your superpower.
Right.
So that listening, that learning, that body language, I'm sure when you get your coach to come in and talk about mental health, it's very clear that what someone doesn't say is as important for sure as what they say. So we should end the interview here because that's the best takeaway. Like listening, right? We're doing a lot of talking.
Yes.
We should just be sitting.
But sometimes I think people think they get to this point where they're a great listener. LinkedIn Research did a study and found that only 8% of mid-level and senior level executives actually do a good job of listening. So that just means all of us have a lot of work to do. And it's a constant skill that you're honing. And that's a good thing.
It has been my New Year's resolution the last 3 years. I'm still working on it. Be a better listener. I swear that's been my resolution the last 3 years.
I think we should all take that resolution, honestly. Yeah. We should all take that on.
Yeah. Well, okay. So speaking about resolutions and doing things differently, what advice, you have a unique position representing, a doctorate in education and change management, a career in training and education, an advocate for the CMBA and inclusion, and your Embrace Committee at NMI. So you have a lot of perspectives. If you were coaching the industry, all companies at this conference in the industry, on inclusion and making people feel like their teams can become these superheroes, what are like the one or two pieces of sage advice that you think all companies can apply to bring out the best in their team members?
I think the first thing you described, intersectionality. So all those different aspects of me, that's my intersectionality. And each of us has that. We're not singular in who we are. So companies have to embrace that intersectionality of every person who's on their team, because no matter what the topic or the challenge happens to be, someone on your team has a unique perspective that can help you find a solution or help you communicate better that solution. And then I think we go back to mine and yours, New Year's resolution. You have to be an active listener. It's not just, I appreciate the fact that we have this intersectionality on our team. We have this diversity on our team. I'm really going to listen to what you're saying, because sometimes what you don't say is what I, as an executive, need to hear.
Yeah, right. And I would actually say, and I always like to take it one step further. Like if you were doing a employee survey, for example, it's great to listen.
Sure.
But unless you do something with the feedback and show people this virtuous circle, there's a loop, and it matters, and your opinion matters, right?
Absolutely.
They're going to stop offering it anyway. What's the use?
There's nothing worse than a silent employee or a team member. There's nothing worse than someone who goes silent, because now that person's not engaged. They've lost faith. They've lost trust. And they may not feel that they're valued. That's how we lose talent.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't want to lose this interview, but I know we're running long. So, why don't we jump into our fun fact, fast 5 questions?
All right. Fire away.
All right. So, favorite food?
My husband's cioppino.
Oh, does he go fishing and get the ingredients?
He's just one step below that. He does find and procure the finest ingredients for it. But it was the very first thing he ever made for me.
Wow.
And I've never had a recipe as good.
Wow. I love cioppino. Okay. What about your hobbies and your special interests? What are some of your fun activities?
I'm a gardener. So I love taking what my garden produces and creating things. So I make a lot of jam, a lot of jellies.
Awesome.
I make my own spaghetti sauce, things like that. I do all of that, and that's a lot of fun for me. And I'm also a grandma, so our Gigi at my house. So my grandgirl, spending time with her is pretty fantastic.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. How about a book, periodical, or podcast you recommend? Your podcast is phenomenal. But outside of your own work.
So I'll go with books. So
Okay.
I think there are 3 books that should be on everyone's shelf. And the first one is Start With Why, Simon Sinek.
Huh.
Lean In, I think is a particularly good book. And I think Lean In actually is good for men and for women.
Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In.
Yes.
Okay.
And Dr. Meg Morgan Meyer's book, Everything is Negotiable. I think that book is really important because so many of us feel that we don't have the power to own our trajectory and where we're headed. And that book gives you really tactile processes and methods to speak for yourself.
To advocate, it's about advocating for yourself.
It's about advocating for yourself so that you go after what it is that you're looking to achieve.
I'm going to read that one. I haven't.
It's a good one.
You know, one of the things that we found through our work with Capital W so far, and you actually mentioned it to me earlier today off camera, mentorship and advocates within an organization at a more senior level,
yes,
you know, makes all the difference.
All the difference.
Bringing women and more marginalized communities through an organization. I had that at my first job out of college on Wall Street. I had the unique privilege of working for a woman because that was incredibly rare back then. And I learned from her the art, what I call, of being Monty Hall. Like, let's make a deal. That's all she ever did.
Yes.
She says door 1, 2, or 3. And that's how I've always approached it. Not because I had read this book,
right,
but because I saw that. So now I'm even more keen to read this book, because everything is negotiable if you do it with honor and the right moral compass.
Yeah. And look how successful you are from that mentorship.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, she was everything. Yeah. Okay. Favorite musician or musical group?
I'm a huge Foo Fighters fan.
Oh,
but I also love Pink. Yeah, I like a little attitude. You can probably guess that. Yeah.
Can you do the Silks?
Yes. And Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan. Let me rock you. Let me rock you. All right. I'm every woman. Okay. So last question. If you could travel anywhere, where would you go?
If I ever disappear, I'm going to give this secret away. I'm probably on St. Kitts. I love St. Kitts. It's one of the most beautiful island countries I've ever visited. Hawaii is really fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be the oldest backpacker across Europe that you ever saw. I'm ready to go to Europe, throw on a backpack, and just travel.
So your islands, maybe European islands.
Perhaps could be some European islands too. Yeah.
Okay. I not too long ago went to Minorca, not Mallorca, and I guess I'm going to give it away right now, but it's a pretty fantastic place to hang out.
That is on the list.
Yeah. Yes, just outside of Barcelona.
Yes.
Well, muchas gracias. This was amazing. This was amazing.
Thank you.
It's the beginning of a long relationship, I hope. Stacey, we reached out about a Take 5. You're now a part of the Capital W community.
Awesome.
And lots more to come. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to see you.
I'm so blessed. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And thanks again, California MBA. And we'll see you again in another Take 5.